Hello everyone, OHM Railroader here, and today we're going to take a look at the benchwork for an L-shaped in-scale layout in progress. Okay, let's get into it. Alright, so today we're going to be looking at the main benchwork for an L-shaped layout in in-scale. I'm using 1x3s for the entirety of the construction for the main part of it. I'm probably going to use a couple 2x4s for some front legs. The back is actually going to be supported by the traditional track shelving units that you install the vertical tracks on the wall and then you install the shelf brackets. I've had great success with those in my switcher layouts, which I have yet to feature or talk about yet, but the methodologies used there have been quite successful, and I thought I would translate them to a bit of a larger layout. You get the reason why I wanted to go that route is because you kind of get some portability to it. It's very permanent, but yet can be moved very easily. And like I said, I've just had good luck with that construction method, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about that today, just so you can see what I'm doing there. It's 105 inches on the back, which is 8 foot 9 inches long, and on the right side here is 65 inches, which is 5 foot 5 inches, and then we have an overall depth of 28 inches for both pieces there. My goals with this layout were to have something other than a switcher layout for my son and I, and being able to loop trains, do some switching. I think I have 4 or 5 industries spec'd out for the layout plan, and that will allow kind of operational type running as well as loop running. My son kind of enjoys both, but we've never really had a looped layout in place. We just have a few switcher layouts. So this gives us an opportunity to be able to loop trains. I do have a staging area in the back, a two-track staging area, and I think it's going to satisfy where we're at with model railroading here, at home anyway, and get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So taking a look a little bit closer here, again, this is just 1x3 construction style. I think most of this is 16-inch on center. I guess I'll talk a little bit about, these are 2 joined pieces that I used just standard carriage bolts to fasten together here. Everything else is just simply 2-inch exterior grade Phillips screws, very similar to drywall screws. I added this bracing here between the 2 pieces just to give it some rigidity, additional rigidity. But the uniqueness, I guess, about this construction method, which you can't really see too well until I come around here at the back, but you'll notice there's 2 1x3 stringers here on the bottom that run the entire length of the layout, and I've got that going on both sides here. And those are spaced exactly 12 inches apart. And what that allows me to do, if you can think of traditional, again, track shelving systems that have your vertical track mounted on the wall, and then you've got these shelving brackets here. These will essentially, if I can line it up here with the shot, support the back half of each corner or each edge of this layout against the wall. And then the front is going to be supported by some legs that I install where needed, probably at least 2 or 3 legs. But it allows for the layout to be easily moved if needed, installed somewhere else if needed, and the fact that this is basically under 6 foot and just a little over 8 foot long, it can be moved to a completely different location if needed. I've got some track plan items here. I guess we'll start with the bench work and just kind of go over some basics. I do plan on, that's why these are cut out or installed this way. On the corners here, this is basically an 8-inch square on each end, which allows for a 16-inch diameter circle, if you will, for the foam top, which is going to be this 1.5 inch foam top. I might go 2 inches, I'm not quite sure, but I wanted to have rounded corners on both edges of this layout. So the bench work is cut out to square, but the foam that lays on top is going to be rounded out there to accommodate the curve. We're also going to do a curve here in the middle part, so you won't see that bracing. You can see the representation of it here on the drawings. This drawing here just more or less is just the bench work, at least the main sections of it. Any rail software, if you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend it for at least, we're using in-scale KATO Unitrack. I'm going to be following, I guess, some inspiration derived from Mike Fifer's channel with how he does his Unitrack. We have used Unitrack a lot in the past for temporary layouts, but this is actually going to be a scenic layout with KATO Unitrack, and I've seen some success with it. The Evanston channel, the guy with the Union Pacific stuff, Mike Fifer, all good inspiration points to draw from. So go check those guys out if you haven't already. I'll link to their channels down below. So yeah, this is the benchwork drawings. I was able to draft these up and revise these over the course of a couple days. This is to accommodate pretty much the exacting space that this is going to be installed in, which pretty much gives me exactly 105 inches by 65 inches of play. This is actually going to be installed above my workstation. So if you think of a traditional desk underneath with some computer monitors and some other things, this is going to be installed above that. So we had to get really creative to get an actual looped layout in the house without taking or sacrificing the space that's already being used. So we'll see how that plans out. I think I've planned it properly. I think I've accounted for the different use case scenarios that I'm going to run into. The reason why the corners are rounded is because those are I didn't want to interfere with walkways as much as possible and things like that. So we'll see. The build went together fairly well. Only just took about 2 hours to put together. No major hiccups, so that's always a good thing. So yeah, let's take a look at the rough track plan. And I've got the main line outlined here in blue. Let's start with the staging area in the back. I decided to have the main line go through the top part of the staging ladder instead of the back part, simply because with the dimensions I'm working with, I wanted that extra space for staging. I anticipate hiding the staging area with a backdrop that kind of, I don't really want to do a tunnel thing for the entrance and the exits here on the left and the right side for these back curves here. I kind of wanted to do a fading technique that kind of just lets the track kind of fade into the backdrop, and we've got maybe some trees to kind of hide that. I really don't want to do any tunnels on this layout here, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure, but what this basically allows, if I can go through this here real quick, is a main loop section that has some industry leads. I'm kind of calling it the northbound and southbound. So if we have a, I guess a southbound train coming on the main here, we can pull into this industry siding that has, I want to say, 2 industries back here, and we've got this runaround track that's in place. So that allows for some switching operations to occur off the main line. Again, my son and I are going to be operating this layout, so I want to be able to do some switching operations while we also have mainline loop traffic happening, and I think this is going to accommodate that. If you're coming in on the northbound end, you can come in on this spur, and this is a nice long winding spur that follows the main line, and then we've got a industry that comes off the back of here. We've also got an industry on the inside of the main right here, and we have more or less off the main, not really part of the northbound spur, but we've got an industry right here, and we've got this runaround track here, and we've also kind of got the ability to do a runaround here coming out on the main. So if I count this up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 industries I think we can get in here, and 2 tracks worth of staging. That's enough for, I think, a nice northbound southbound train of 5, 6, 7 cars each. Again, it's not a very big layout. I don't anticipate running long trains. I'm looking at 50-foot box cars, some grain cars, some maybe open gondolas. Nothing too big. We're not talking like 89-foot high cubes or anything like that. So this is the layout design initially. It's pretty much been finalized. I've made some revisions to it, but at least it's finalized on paper. We're gonna see how it translates to actual KATO Unitrack when it gets put down to explore this track plan and see how it works. So I'll be curious to see if I make any major revisions to this. The last piece is just I kind of went a little crazy with some of the scenic elements in AnyRail and thought let's visualize some foliage and some trees. And here in this part of Ohio, we have a lot of deciduous trees, so that's kind of what I'm going to model after. It's a freelance layout, of course. You can see some of the areas are left for industry buildings and things like that. Maybe a road here, a crossing. But it was just to throw it down on paper and just kind of see what some scenic elements might represent there. As far as grades, elevations, things like that, I'm not going to get into too much of that at all. There might be some elevations that change, but nothing more than, I want to say a 1.5, 2%. And I don't see the main track, any parts of the track going over above the main more than a half an inch. I really, that's my goal anyway. I do like this area. I'll look at it on the Scenic View here. I do like this area here. I'm thinking about maybe carving this out into a bit of a valley. Maybe a slight hill represented here that tapers down to a lower elevation below the track to represent just a nice valley scene. I didn't want to overcrowd this with industries. I didn't want to have a whole lot of I guess a wrong ratio of track versus industries versus scenery. I wanted to strike a good balance and not overcrowd things. So this area here is I think it has a nice ratio where we can have basically just a nice scenic scene all through this part here. This is going to have the most track together, I guess, on the visible part of the layout. And I think it'll be really cool to have a train parked in this passing or this runaround siding here that'll serve this industry and this industry. And I can envision with this track plan, my son and I operating together. That's kind of the goal of the layout, is that he can operate loop trains. Maybe he can do a little bit of operation switching. If we need to pass each other, we have an opportunity here to pass. And I think that industry operations and switching can be done as well as loop operation as well. So best laid plans at this point, but we have executed, I guess, the first step beyond paper, which is getting the Benchwork top built here. I think there's plenty of room for wiring and other elements to be executed here, and we'll see how things pan out, I guess, with the rest of this. The next step is to get it installed in the house and have some foam on top, and we'll take a look at what throwing down some KATO Unitrack against that track plan looks like in real life, and how that comes together or pans out, or any problems I run into. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the first part of this project. I hope you've enjoyed looking at this in progress layout. I'll continue to document it here. And remember, I want to know what you think. So please feel free to share a note below with your thoughts, comments, questions, encouragement, criticism. I'm very curious. I can be found on all the various platforms out there as OHM Railroader, so feel free to look me up. And just know I enjoy sharing with the model railroading community, so please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel to see new things that we're going to take a look at, figure out, build, learn, explore, whatever, together. And thanks. Remember to have fun. Bye.